everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week, hopefully this year. Welcome to 2024. Happy New Year. I hope everybody's doing really well and you enjoyed your holiday season. This is going to be the January 2024 monthly address, and we're going to talk about all of the biggest transits for the month ahead. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell button below if you are a first-time viewer. Come be a new subscriber to my channel. Help me reach my goal of almost 30,000 subscribers. We are almost there. The future is looking bright. And we're going to talk all about the themes for the month. We've got a lot of stuff going on. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Candice. I'm a Western astrologer. I work both with the Sabian symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. We have so much stuff on the channel for you guys, so much free information, long form, high quality content. Please do consider donating to my channel or becoming a member so you can support me being a full-time content creator and hopefully in 2024 bring you guys more continuing education stuff. Not just on the current transits, but teach you guys more about your natal charts and to better understand astrology in general. Also, we're doing $5 off all of my calendars. So we have digital calendars that are personalized that you can import directly into your iPhone or your Google Calendar for transits for the next 12 months. We also have a really beautiful 12-month calendar that you can put on the wall that's printed, gives you information on all of the different zodiac signs and how to work both with herbs and crystals and other rituals to work with the energy on a month-by-month basis with all of the biggest astrological transits baked into that. And we have a digital and a printed version. And there's some really awesome 2024 lunar prints as well. If you want to get something really pretty that you can hang up, that's going to show you all the lunations for the year. We have a light and a dark version. So check all of that out on my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, so a couple things. First of all, I'm going to tell you guys first and foremost, if you want something that's going to be more personalized, if you're like, this is all great, but how is it going to affect me? Check out my January 2024 horoscopes. They are live, they are long, but I touch on a lot of these transits, and basically we'll be back here throughout this month. You can catch me here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday doing the videos. We do some astro musings during the week. We have new and full moon reports, and we also talk about astro weather, obviously, on Sundays. Pretty soon, you guys will see at some point in the month, we're going to release my 2024 kind of video that we did live. Actually, while a lot of you guys are watching this right now, I'm in the process of doing it. So if I missed you, don't worry. You guys are going to get to watch that playback at a later time on the channel. Well, I will take you through all of the biggest energies for 2024. All right, so what do I like for January? Well, I'm going to tell you guys, it's not just because of the new year, okay? It's because we are going to have an insane stellium of planets in Capricorn. January is such a good time to get your shift together, to get things in order. We're going to see kind of like swells of time periods in 2024 where things are going to get a little bit more intense. Obviously, we'll see that in the spring and the fall because of the eclipses. But really, there is this real build of energy between now and April. And at the end of January, actually, we're going to see all planets go direct. And they will be direct until April 1st. So we're going to have a nice kind of like 2.5 month window where we can get a lot of stuff done while all of the planets are moving forward. The energies are moving forward. And it's going to be really great for seeing forward motion in all of our lives. Now, we're going to see Mercury turn direct actually on January 1st today. Or I guess, I don't know if this is coming out the 31st or the 1st, but you're going to see it on January 1st. Mercury is going to turn direct. So the retrograde will be over. Rejoice. It has been retrograde in Capricorn back into Sagittarius. So as it goes direct, it'll be in the Sagittarius area of your chart. Likely there is going to be some like information coming to fruition. We're going to be able to see something. It may be on the global kind of world stage because it's in the sign of Sag. This is going to be a shadow that's going to kick on the back end. I'll show you guys the aspects, but we don't really come out of the shadow until mid-month. So you'll see some of the Mercury-Neptune square stuff still kind of hang around. So unfortunately, communication is not really ideal the first half of the month. Neither is travel. So you're going to want to wait until Mercury dips back into Capricorn to kind of make sense of things and to kind of get back on track. Now, also this month, we're going to see Mars move into Capricorn. So it'll be moving into the sign where it's exalted. I'm putting together a whole video. You guys are going to get that next on Mars in Capricorn. Been really looking forward to this transit because I feel like Mars is really going to be able to strut its stuff, helping all of us flex our strength and get down to business. So obviously Mars's connection to the North Node in Aries is really showing us that when we show up, when we're committed, when we are responsible, when we're taking action in like a timely manner, we can actually get a lot of stuff done. We'll see a few squares to Chiron and also the nodes as well. And also that new moon in Capricorn is also going to form some squares to the nodes. So we're going to be experiencing some fateful things this month. But essentially, when we have a lot of Capricorn or Earth energy in the skies, it's time to get down to business, have a plan, and get things done. Now, we'll see some sparkly trines to Jupiter. So the future is definitely looking abundant, or maybe we're feeling a little bit more optimistic with some of these trines to Jupiter in Taurus, and Jupiter is now direct. So we're also going to start to see some of the sweet effects of that eclipse that's still playing out from the fall of 2023. We'll also see some Uranus trines. This will be keeping us on our toes, and we'll be finding new innovative ways to make changes all month long. Obviously, Uranus in the sign of Taurus can help us make changes to everything from our finances to how we eat, changes in our values, changes with our resources, and we're probably going to be hearing about some major changes in regards to the financial markets. And then finally, we will see this grand conjunction that everybody keeps talking about where Pluto will reemerge into the sign of Aquarius. We got a sneak peek preview of it last spring in 2023. But in 2024, Pluto is here to stay for most of the year. It'll only make a very brief return to Capricorn, and that'll be later closer to the fall. So yeah, Pluto entering into Aquarius, it's really setting the stage for where we're radically transforming our future, our goals, technology, everything about the masses for the better part of the next 20 years. I think a lot of astrologers are really curious to see how this manifests. I think you're going to see that this will be a year where between the aspects with Jupiter and Uranus and Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, we're all going to learn a lot about the future and how bright the future can be. And it's obviously going to really touch on the future of innovations in technology, the future of innovations in currency and money, in food and resources. So I'm not going to go into doom and gloomville, but I've done some videos on Pluto and Aquarius. I'm going to come back and talk to you guys about this in a separate video as well. But definitely look at where Aquarius is in your chart, because that's where we're going to be seeing some significant kind of phoenix death and rebirth type of energy. I'm very curious to see how this manifests, because we're going to see Pluto and the Sun move together in this conjunction. So very likely something is going to materialize from this out in the world, where we see kind of a shift in power, a shift with politics. We're going to see also the darker side of Pluto being kind of exposed out into the world. The sun shines a light on something. So we're going to hear a lot more about, political underhandedness and things revolving around that stuff. So let's get into the month ahead. Let's take a look. We're going to start with January 1st. So like I said, Happy New Year, guys. The new year, it's a little bittersweet. I think with Mercury turning direct, you got to take the positives when and where you can. Mercury will turn direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So Mercury has been stationing. Maybe we have felt this slowdown in communication, in the sign of Sagittarius. It can be about also education, culture, travel. And recently we've had Mars conjunction to Mercury. So I don't know about you guys, but there's been lots of little tiffs in the air. Definitely a little bit of a bite in terms of communication. And those squares to Neptune can be a lot about misunderstandings or people who are not really seeing context in conversations, or they're taking things the wrong way. So I'll be glad to see this extended Mercury-Neptune square end. It's really positive for those of you guys who are ruled by Mercury. So my Gemini, my Virgos, Mercury going direct is going to bring some sense of maybe forward motion, clarity, more stability. Mercury is technically in its fall in Sagittarius. So once we're getting it back into Capricorn, we're going to see that things are going to kind of get back on track for you guys. Equally, if you have any personal planets, 21 to 23 degrees of Sagittarius, Mercury turning direct may give you some sort of insight or clarity or something that was missing or broken down. Now you may find the solution or the remedy or something might turn up. Now, something else we're going to be seeing today also is Venus will be in a square to Saturn. Okay, so all these planets in Sagittarius, mutable fire, right, is in a superior position to Pisces. So we're seeing a lot of closing squares. When planets are squaring from the right hand side, there is a sense of trying to reconcile or wrap something up in the Pisces area of our lives. And Pisces can be about what's hidden, what's subconscious, what's not visible, what's spiritual, what's in our dreams, what's kind of going on behind the scenes. So we've got a really strong signature of Sagittarius in the beginning of the new year, which is about faith, optimism, culture, travel, law, legality, and all these planets, Venus, which represents socializing, love, and beauty, Mercury, the mind and communicator, Mars, which represents kind of force and passion, is all coming down on Pisces. So there's been a lot of people talking about their belief system, their culture, talking about what they've learned in the past, where they went to school, what their philosophy on the world is, and it's all kind of pushing down on all of this Pisces energy, and it's trying probably to bring some of us who have a very bold worldview or religious view or spiritual view or cultural perspective out into the open to really be discussing what people don't want to talk about, what people don't want to see. I find it kind of bizarre that like society is kind of split into these two groups right now, where it's like there's people who are just kind of going through the motions and they're almost like zombies and they don't really recognize that the more that we continue to just accept things that are like now normal in society, like the more we start to see things kind of fall apart. And then we've got all of these like kind of like Sagittarian type of archetypes, people who are educated, people who are self-educated, people who are practicing faith or spirituality and actually actively walking in that. People who are also like well-traveled and well-versed and have a wide kind of understanding of culture, not just limited to where they live, and they see the bigger picture of like the world politicking that's going on, right? This is all that Sagittarius energy that's coming down on Pisces. So if you're somebody who watches my content, you may watch my content because you're like, okay, I kind of get like the astrology, but I also get the news, or at least that's what I've heard. And you probably like my content because I'm constantly kind of asking questions about, well, why are these things in the world happening? And how is it that we can look at the astrology in the skies and kind of see archetypally how the cosmos are laying it out for us and kind of showing us what's coming next, right? So Saturn in Pisces now direct is essentially going to continue to move forward. We're actually going to see Saturn get all the way up to about 19 degrees in 2024 this year. We're going to see Saturn and Neptune inch closer and closer to a conjunction. They'll be within 10 degrees range. You won't really see the fireworks of a lot of these bigger transits until 25 and 26, but this is really where we're having to come to terms with reality and dissolving boundaries and limitations, and really kind of coming to terms with, like, I think, harsh truths about the world and society. So we'll see that play out for the next 2 years. But right now, with all these planets in Sagittarius, I think that it's really trying to get us thinking and talking about how we can be more aware of, playing a personal role, right? We want to look at these trines to Aries. That's a way to get out of these squares to Pisces. And where we're proactive. Aries is proactive. It's entrepreneurial. It's self-starter. It's courageous. It's fierce, determined. And where people are starting to kind of realize, like, hey, we need to, this is an emperor has no clothes situation. We need to kind of take action, and we need to be focusing on how we can help making the world a better place on a personal level. A lot of people have talked about, and I've heard a lot of perspectives, both in independent media and friends and other content creators and people who are in the political sphere talk about like the shadow government, right? And I think Saturn in the sign of Pisces can very much be about that, where control and superior forces are now working behind the scenes, infiltrating things like water, right? Pisces. It can also be about the healthcare system, Pisces. It can also be about content and media and photos and videos and screens. But the more that I've been looking at this particular square, the more that I start to kind of take a step back and go, I think the scary thing is, and the harsh reality that we're kind of going to start realizing, is that nobody is really in charge. I don't think anybody's in charge. I think there's a lot of speculation. I think there's some groups and some people and some individuals who think they're in charge. But at the end of the day, I think that it like I said, it's an emperor has no clothes situation. So as we get to 2025 and 2026 and we see Saturn and Neptune come into conjunction, we'll see a new era basically with Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries, which will be about this new beginning for individuals and where we're returning to primitive ways. We're returning maybe to looking at ourselves as having a divine connection to source and to spirit. Maybe we're moving away from organized religion. Maybe we're moving away from even some spiritual practices. Some of these things will dissolve. And so what I want you guys to know is that while we're in Capricorn season, there's still a lot of faith building in Sag, and it's about how we are playing an active role in educating ourselves, expanding our mind, our consciousness, trying to become the best versions of ourselves. And so the way that the zodiac works is that it kind of builds on itself. When we see that where there's a stellium of planets in one sign, inevitably those planets have to move to the following sign, which will be Capricorn, which is where we kind of, we do the work, right? We show up, we're public, we're in the world, we're making the commitment, we're exercising our responsibility, we're flexing our strength. And it's all going to be built off of what we're realizing we do or do not believe in right now. So the point that I'm getting to is that with Mercury getting ready to go direct, I think a lot of us are working through some of this maybe crisis of faith philosophy, making changes or rearranging something about our belief system or what we practice or what we're studying or who we listen to. And I would really encourage you guys to be present with that, right? Because it's going to play a really big role in ultimately what you're going to get going with once we get into the spring of this year. Now, Venus square Saturn, obviously not fun. Venus is the planet that deals with love and harmony and relationships and beauty and aesthetics and what tastes good, feels good. She's about pleasure. So Venus coming into a square with Saturn on one hand is kind of slapping Saturn around, being like, why didn't you call me last night? Like, why didn't I see you over the holiday? Why didn't you reach out to me? Because this is a sign that deals with love in an active sense, right? Bridging the gap, Venus in Sagittarius, being willing to make the phone call, go the distance, show up, get on the plane, go somewhere. And when we see squares between Sagittarius and Pisces, it represents some kind of change or some kind of shift in perspective. They're both mutable signs, but Jupiter is much more inclusive, and it's about truth and expansion and knowledge and travel. And Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces as well, but it's a feminine sign. So it's more receptive. It's more private. It's more behind the scenes. It's more emotional. It's less action, more emotions. So I feel like the new year kind of kicks off with a lot of people kind of feeling like, I wish I heard from that someone, or I wish I was able to go to this place for New Year's, or, being really hard on themselves about New Year's resolutions. I want to remind everybody that Pisces is a water sign. It is emotional. It's very sensitive, and you can scare the fish away if you're not tending to their emotions and being compassionate. That's really what Pisces is about. So if you're really wanting to make changes in this new year and you're wanting to stick to your New Year's resolutions, be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself. Your body is made mostly of water. If you are praying over your water before you drink it, if you are praying over your food before you eat it, if you are making a conscious effort to soak and rinse and cleanse and pray and talk kindly to yourself, maybe about all the things that you do like, you're going to make the process easier of being able to go through that change and transformation. Oftentimes, Venus square Saturn can materialize as not feeling like we have enough love, enough resources, enough support, physical touch, connection. And if there's something that you're really harping on that you don't like at the beginning of the year, I would encourage you to look at it and go, well, here's what I do like, and here are the positive attributes of myself or my relationship or my job or my situation. How can I be more compassionate to the bits and pieces that really aren't working, and how can I learn to listen to those emotions to make a change? Because Venus is in a superior position, so she's really trying to kind of tend to what we're maybe afraid to acknowledge or kind of heal within ourselves. Not the best day for relationship stuff, money stuff, making big changes to your physical appearance. Saturn is like a stop sign, so he reminds us that it takes a little bit of time to actually like go through some kind of shift. And he's in a sign that's invisible. So we may also feel like there is something that's holding us back from having more abundance or holding us back from having more love. And I think that the medicine of Pisces, at least for me recently, has been about more reflecting on like the quiet time and taking time to kind of listen to the intuition more, or making time for, sleep or rest or relaxation. And that's when we really kind of start to see things that we are maybe not always aware of because we're too busy, in action. All right, so then on the 4th, we're going to see Mars move into Capricorn, and you guys can't tell, I have a Capricorn stellium, so very rarely do you see me get super, super excited. Occasionally the Aries moon comes out. I'm pretty Saturnian, but I am like ecstatic for this particular transit. So if I'm excited, you guys should be excited, because generally I can see things before a lot of normies can see them, being an astrologer. But the North Node moved into Aries, I guess, like in the spring of 2023, and it's going to be there until the beginning of 2025. When Mars is in Scorpio, which we had in the fall, when Mars is in Capricorn, which we're about to experience, when Mars is in Aries, is when we can get the best stuff done, because Mars is moving through signs which it performs better in. Because Mars rules the North Node, okay, wherever Mars is going, it is reverberating some of the lessons of that North Node in Aries. So you have to look at your astrology, look at where Aries is in your chart. There is work to be done there. There's something you're growing into, something you're learning. Where Mars is going now for the next 6 weeks is moving into an exaltation. So it means that it's got like a little bit more extra oomph. Mars is moving through an earth sign, so it's about physical changes, physical movement, action, building on something. It's a Saturn-ruled sign. So we've got the responsibility, and we've got the commitment of Saturn. Time is on our side when we have Mars in Capricorn. We feel like we're willing to make the time to do the things that we know that we need to do. And this is moving 10 signs away from Aries. So even though it's in its exaltation, it's in a positive aspect, we're going to see lots of peppered aspects also to planets in Taurus, where it's helping us build in terms of our abundance, our resources, our self-esteem, our values. Mars is eventually going to start coming into squares with Chiron in the North Node. We'll see this both in the new moon, but also when Mars squares the nodes, that it's almost saying now is the time to show up, to be responsible, to do the work, however that manifests for you. So you have to see which house this is in. Capricorn is a sign that represents government, leaders, right? Superiors, people who wear uniforms. So I think of like cops. I think of, professionals that are, in government. I think of leaders. I think of military leaders. I think of elders. And Capricorn is on the axis of Capricorn and Cancer. So this can be about archetypes of like mom and dad, or home and career, masculine, feminine. Although they're both feminine signs, Capricorn is this more showing up and doing the work that's necessary in order to kind of like hold down society, right? So as we see Mars go through Capricorn, we're going to see action within Capricorn areas, out in the world. So Mars can be about military, right? Mars can be about quickness, but it's also the god of war and severing and cutting. So we may see that there is going to be some movements to have some government jobs that are being cut. We may see that there are some big companies and businesses that have layoffs that may happen. But I think we also might see an opportunity for there to be a bit of like a power up. So whatever's going on with Mars and Capricorn is still somehow connected to Aries. And, there's something to be said about when transits, go into the natal 10th house, or when planets are moving through the 10th house and it's squaring the ascendant. It is a natural Saturn energy. Even if it's not in the sign of Capricorn, it's kind of bearing down on that ascendant in that first house. On one hand, it's very public, so it can represent finally climbing that mountain and having some sense of visibility, but it can also feel like heavy, right? Difficult, oppressive, challenging. I encourage you guys this month to get your shift together, right? To get out of your own way, to make the time for the things that are important to you, to be brave, to take action, And in the background, the dispositor of all of this Capricorn in the sky, which you're going to see Mercury is going to show up, Venus is going to show up, is Saturn, and Saturn is direct. So on one hand, it can represent, well, okay, this is too difficult, this is too much, this is too limiting, and let's just dissolve it. Okay, so some people may decide to do that because of the sextiles to Saturn in Pisces. But it may also represent where we're willing to show up and do the work to finally clear something, remove something, cut something out, heal something. Pisces, once again, is about dissolving, removing. It can also be about letting go, releasing. It can be about healing. And Pisces is a sign that's also about art. It's about design. It's about spirituality. It's about religion. I was looking at my 2023 astrology video that I did, my long video for the new year, and I was looking at all the predictions that I made and some of the stuff that started coming to fruition this year. And I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit. A lot of it has. And one of the biggest things that really caught my eye was how I just said on one of the slides that there would be a move to start dissolving or either dissolving organized religion or merging them and bringing them together. And I said that because I saw Saturn going into Pisces. Pisces can literally be about organized religion. It can be about Catholicism. It can be about this kind of, anything that's about this martyr type of religion. And I saw that we were going to see aspects between Jupiter and Saturn. And on one hand, I was like, well, they're going to do this because they're going to want to bring religions together and they're going to want people to kind of harmonize. So they're going to want to dissolve the barriers in religion. But I also saw this because I was like, well, you're going to see some motive by those in charge or by governments or whatever to get in and infiltrate and start kind of creating this dissolve. Because if you dissolve faith, if you dissolve clergies and people who come together and pray together and work together, you're going to dissolve something that people really hold on to for safety and security. When I think of Saturn, I think of safety and security. So on one hand, if you feel like in the Pisces area of your chart, if there's something lacking there, if there's not enough consistency, if there's not enough support, if there's not enough stability, if you're feeling like that area of your life is kind of slipping through, you can really use this Mars and Capricorn transit to kind of help stabilize it. And Pisces can also be about your vision. It can be about your dreams. It can be about the fantasy that you want to make real. So much of Saturn in Pisces is about making our dreams a reality. And Saturn in aspect to Jupiter is also about doing the work and building it and using almost like the blueprint of Pisces to make some of this stuff happen. So we have some really interesting aspects, sextiles from earth to water, right? Action creates our faith or our belief. Faith, belief, and vision helps us kind of build into a more stable and solid future. Lots of trines and sextiles, some really good astrology all month long. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you guys about my Mars and Capricorn transit. But obviously, those of you guys who are ruled by Mars, so my Aries risings, my Scorpio risings, Mars changing signs going into exaltation, really good for you guys. Please use it. And also for my Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and risings, for you guys going through the Mars transit, very self-focused, very dedicated, very committed, very active. So you might need an outlet. And my goodness, it's like this grand reveal, especially for Capricorn risings. As we're getting ready to see Pluto leave your sign, some of you guys are going through a major transformation. And so that's going to be really wonderful for you. On the 9th of the month, we're going to see the Sun in Capricorn trine Uranus and Taurus. And so I'll just say this. We will see several trines to Uranus and we'll see several trines to Jupiter, okay? So when we see trines between Capricorn and Taurus, it's about work, responsibility, public reputation, image, and how that's influencing our resources, right? The Sun in Capricorn wants that power, wants that prestige, wants to be seen, wants the responsibility, wants to manage things. And then Uranus is going to be about the masses. It's about what's unconventional, what's different. I'm sitting around waiting to hear the news about what's going to be happening with some of these Bitcoin ETFs in January. I'm curious to hear, what BlackRock and other companies are doing in regards to their moves to potentially invest. If they are going to be greenlighting and kind of paving the way. We're hearing a lot from some people in politics that are talking about whether or not people should have access to, holding their own cryptocurrency, and if that's something that should be outlawed. Certainly this very much is mirrored in the astrology, where you've got people who are in charge, old fuddy-duds in politics, very Capricorn 10th house. Obviously Pluto's at 29 degrees too, so this is that death rattle where it's like something that has always been in power wants to continue to reign. And Capricorn is old. It's what's like old and ancient. It's these bag of bones that we see sitting in Congress or sitting in Senate, and people who have also been running banks and businesses and stuff for a long period of time. They want to hold control. And so it's coming into aspects with Uranus and Taurus. And this is about innovations, changes, and shifts in regards to currency, money, right? Resources, materials, food. You're going to hear things like, politics and, people in charge talking about, well, we got to do something about food prices. And, maybe we need to be opening, government-run grocery stores. I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm very much against it. But it's been very obvious, at least since the pandemic, that there's been a lot of create a problem, offer you a solution. We're seeing this with energy, right? And, energy and price surges. And now there's like lots of things that are being passed that are requirements for like how buildings and structures are being built, that it's including charging stations and stuff for cars. We're hearing how there may be some obvious kind of patrolling over how cryptocurrency is handled or managed, or how banks are handling or managing it. We might hear more about how, government is stepping in and getting more so involved with some of these financial institutions. 2024, we are going to see dominoes fall in some financial situations. It's going to continue. It's been happening since the FTX stuff. But we're going to see more as Jupiter and Uranus inch closer and closer. So when I think of planets in Capricorn trining Jupiter and Taurus, people are seeing, wow, okay, if we go and we manage this thing, we're going to have wealth. We're going to have the capabilities of being able to get rich off of this. It's also about resources and natural resources. I was just reading recently, I guess, like one of the biggest natural lithium resources is, I think, in Nevada, in the world, supposedly. And so I'm wondering, like, oh, is this going to be about how we're going to hear how government's going to start kind of coming in and regulating certain lands and stuff because of natural resources and wanting to have control over that? Jupiter isn't just about wealth. Jupiter can also be about the truth. Jupiter can also be about laws. Saturn is more regulation. He's the enforcer. But Saturn is now starting to sextile Jupiter again. So that's why we're hearing things about how companies like Nestle, bastards, saying things like, well, water is not a right to humanity. Humans don't have a right to water. I mean, literally things like that. Very Saturn sextile Jupiter. Who has the right to resources? And also, we're hearing more about things like, the right of the planet, and that, the earth is supposed to be this precious thing, which I believe in, that needs to be preserved and taken care of, which I'm all for, but not in a sense of, limiting population, letting people go homeless, letting people die, go without health care. We're going to hear more about these extreme laws revolving around protecting the environment in the name of protecting the environment, but exterminating humans. I don't like saying that, but Pluto is death. It's going into the sign of the masses. We're going to see over the next year that there is definitely an extermination plan, whether that's through food and limitation of resources, or lack of money or funds, or energy issues. A lot of this stuff does kind of come through the astrology. In the back of my mind, I feel like the human spirit is very resilient. We are here after all because generations of people who have been able to kind of make their way. And I feel like on one hand, that should give us a sense of pride and make us want to continue to move forward and be innovative as a race. But I also feel like it's hard because we have a lot of people who are not wanting to do that. They want to be comfortable. They want to live this life that's kind of cushy, and we kind of, have security and we have comfort by kind of giving up some of our rights. So that North Node in Aries, right, that we're going to be seeing still for another year is about where we hurt ourselves, North Node Chiron. We hurt ourselves through the unwillingness to actually do the work, to be more physically active, to be more resourceful, to learn how to kind of be more independent. When I think of Aries, I think of like hunter-gatherers, because that's really what Aries was. They were, energetically, it's nomadic. I think of people who also are self-sufficient. They know about survival. I think about people who know about self-defense, and all of these things. And this is really where we're learning as a society, or a culture, to do more of these things. And I think you're going to find as we go through Capricorn season that there may be some things that are happening out in the world that are putting us in a position of having to learn more about this. Now, obviously, Aries is going to be in a different area of everybody's chart. It may be in a house that is not about survival, but it might be about like learning how to make your own food, or learning how to, do things by hand, learning how to be more self-sufficient and not as reliant on technology, right? That might be something. But I do feel like you guys are going to start to see where there is also like an overreach or an abuse maybe of power, especially as we start seeing Mars and Pluto come into conjunction, coming into squares with Chiron in the North Node, which is basically through that push, right? Forcing people to kind of stand up, rise up, say, no, we're not doing this, this doesn't work, and people who are willing to kind of put themselves in the position of being cast aside or being called out or being isolated. Chiron is about these things. It's about somebody who has this wound of rejection. And so we may find that we're having to kind of stand up against authority. We're having to push back a little bit and be a little bit more fierce. And also be thinking about how we can be proactively doing things so it doesn't come down to some like dramatic situation. We're prepared, right, for long-term goals. We're willing to kind of do the work to kind of get to that point. With the Sun trine Jupiter, the Sun trine Uranus, you're going to see an opportunity for things to change on a dime. Work, Capricorn, career, responsibility, and money, resources, finances are harmonizing. This is a day where we can learn how to do something different. We can adapt in a positive way. And I think with Venus, being in the mix and Venus coming into a trine with Chiron in the North Node, it's kind of saying like now is a really good time to teach yourself how to do something. I'm going to encourage everybody in January, find a new hobby and don't make it just playing video games. Find something that is going to be productive. Like learn how to sew, learn how to can food, learn how to make soap, learn how to plant a vegetable garden, something like that, and like put in the time and the effort to learn how to do these things. And if you decide to start your new year off by doing this, you'll find that by the time you get to like March or April, you're going to already be kind of like, wow, I'm a little bit more self-sufficient because I made the time for these things. On the 12th, we're going to see Mars then come into a trine with Jupiter. And this is one of my most favorite days. There we go. And this will be at a 5. So we've got Mars at a 5, trine Jupiter at a 5. Venus is the dispositor of Jupiter. She's trine Chiron. So this is why I say learn how to do something more independently for yourself. And we've got Mars, which is sextiling Saturn, trine Jupiter, which is about expansion. I think we're going to see a lot of people who are going out for new jobs in the new year. I think that even if we may see some companies that cut back or, they kind of, reduce their employees, or they're kind of dealing with tight expenses, I think a lot of people are going to be actually actively going for, seeking new jobs that are going to pay them better. People may be also looking for jobs that are willing to train them. I read an article the other day that said like so many employers next year are moving to remove a bachelor's degree as a requirement for jobs. I think that on one hand, that's a great thing, because I think that this sounds so shitty, but I know a lot of people who have an amazing education and they may be book smart, but they're not street smart. You know what I'm saying? And I know some people who have never taken a college course in their entire life and they're just like absolutely brilliant. And it's because they have either gone to school of hard knocks, or they've had to learn how to be scrappy, or maybe they've educated themselves and they've become successful as an entrepreneur. A piece of paper is not necessarily going to determine whether or not you're smart enough or qualified for a position. And I'm not against education. As somebody who's gone through that whole shebang, I find that if we're pursuing and we're learning what we're most passionate about, what we actually want to be doing out in the world, it's going to make us all better, more well-rounded people. And if you look at the history, at least since the 70s, of like this push towards, going to school, getting an education, getting a degree, obviously the cultural side also of having that experience, It's just been this snowball effect that's gotten a lot of people into massive debt that has limited their ability to feel free because they're paying off student loans. They were told, we see Gen Zers going into the workforce, getting on TikTok, crying about the fact that they hate that they have to work 40 hours a week and they can't afford to live in the city because they're paying off their car and their debt and they're miserable. Anyway, I'll save you guys the spiel, but basically what I'm getting at is people will be investing in jobs that might be training them. I think we might see trade jobs, especially with North Node and Aries. I think we're going to see a lot of people that are going to be applying for jobs now that are limiting or kind of, changing something about or eliminating the requirements for work that's giving them the ability to finally kind of get in on the ground level where maybe they couldn't before. And Jupiter is bringing more money and more abundance. So, I think with the sextiles to Saturn, I think with the trines to Jupiter, if you're somebody who's looking for a new job that's going to train, if you're somebody who's going back to school, you made that decision during the Mercury retrograde, wonderful. If you're somebody who's like, hey, I'm going to be apprenticing, I'm going to be shadowing and working with somebody, that's amazing. I mean, I think that, skill and technique that's very much a Taurus thing. You have to have the ability to do something. But Aries says, before we get there, we got to start. We got to start somewhere. So before we were perfecting stuff, we're really looking at, well, what action do I need to take to be able to kind of get there? And with Mars trine Jupiter, I think a little bit of faith, a little bit of optimism can kind of go a long way. A wonderful day for initiating and starting new things right after that new moon that we had in Capricorn. All right, so then we're going to see on the 13th, Mercury re-enters in the sign of Capricorn, so it's no longer in Sagittarius. We're not out of the shadow until Mercury hits about 8 or 9 degrees. But nevertheless, once Mercury gets into Capricorn, at least it's in a Saturn-based sign. Okay, so it's in a sign where we can be more strategic, we can take our time, we can commit more seriously to things, so on and so forth. Obviously for Gemini and Virgo risings, pay attention for this. And for Capricorns as well, you might find that it's just a time where you're really walking the walk and talking the talk. Mercury and Mars are in close proximity. They will join again, similar to how they did in Sagittarius, but I think this time there's going to be a little bit like more oomph there. Then we're going to see on the 18th of the month, Mercury will sextile Saturn. I think that's great for like if you need to sign a contract, if you're needing to commit to something, if you're planning something long-term. It's going to be at a 4. So I think some people are planning for like long-term living situations, thinking about where they want to move to, signing leases. Maybe if you've waited to do this stuff until after the new year and after the retrograde, this can be a good time to do it. When Mercury is harmonizing with its dispositor, it's basically saying it's using some sense of like timing and responsibility and like goal planning in order to make dreams a reality. We'll see the moon that's also going to shift into Taurus. So probably on like the 18th, when you see the moon in Taurus conjunct Jupiter trine, that's also a really nice aspect. I don't have that, but we'll see that. But it looks like, let's see, what's going on the 18th? Yeah, Mercury's still trine Saturn. So this is a nice communication day, moon and exaltation, trine, and then we still have the sextile. Obviously, we've got Sun coming into conjunction with Pluto, so that's happening as well. What else? And then on the 19th, we're going to see Venus in Sag square Neptune in Pisces. So this is something you guys want to watch for. That'll be at 25. So make a note of January 19th. We've got Venus in Sag, ruler of the South Node, coming into a square with Neptune. And it's at a 25. So where we have a tendency to idealize something, or we're too optimistic maybe about the outcome of a relationship or a financial situation, the South Node is ruled by Venus. So I would say be very, very careful about kind of getting swindled in matters of money or love. I think with Venus square Neptune, there can be also a tendency to want to resolve the issues where there's been misunderstandings or miscommunications or people who have been evasive or who are not checking in. What's interesting is that the moon is going to be in conjunction to Uranus. So there is some major change with resources and values. And Venus is the dispositor. So Venus is not only going to be in conjunct this, but it's square Neptune. And I'm feeling like there's going to be something that's coming out about laws or maybe even like regulations with all this Capricorn trine about the future of money and resources. And it's like something is not clear. Like I'd be really suspicious of like laws, like, at least here in the United States, like they try to pass stuff and it's like hundreds of pages long and it can be on one particular topic and maybe the law, or what they're passing has like a title to it. But then the more that you dig into it, you're like, this is all kinds of other stuff that's just been kind of baked into it that has nothing to do with this law that you're trying to pass. I'd be really suspicious about something like that going on during this time. Especially as we see Mercury and Mars coming, closer and closer. I think it's going to be about funding and resources that may be going towards war, maybe going towards kind of conflict. Aside from that, it's a positive day on tap, but I'm not crazy about Venus square Neptune. So be very careful with love, relationships, money, investments, or just kind of getting swindled on this day. Something can kind of go missing. And because Jupiter is the dispositor of Venus, and we have all these planets in Taurus, conjunct Uranus, it's going to be likely something that's kind of changing that can affect our bottom line or security. The 20th is the day. This is the big day. So you guys are going to see the Sun and Pluto hit 29 degrees. Look at this. It'll be really early in the morning on the 20th. And you guys know that Sabian symbol, right? The group of people sitting around having private meetings, discussing like alliances. On one hand, 29 is this energetic degree. It's like the tipping point where it can go one way or the other. It can represent something dying off and something being reborn because we're about to see planets ingress into the next sign. Capricorn 29 degrees is the most power, the most control, right? The oldest, the most responsible. And it's also a very psychic degree. Something about the fact that we're going to see these two planets ingress into Aquarius. I'm watching what's going to be going on in the world the 20th and the 21st. Look at the moon here. The moon's going to hit 29, 29, 29, 29. Okay, so there's going to be a trine. So on one hand, some people would say, well, this is a pretty good aspect, exalted moon trine the sun and Pluto. But this is about where there is some focus on power, control, corruption, exposing the dark and its influence with the moon. There's supposed to be like 200 plus names that are coming out in January. That's supposed to quite literally be connected to all this child trafficking stuff. So I'm not going to get into it, trigger warning for those of you guys who are sensitive to this, but it's supposed to be much bigger than anything connected to Epstein. And I'm wondering about the connection and the influence with power and control and politics, Capricorn, and the banks and resources in the banking systems and how it's all potentially intertwined. Is there going to be some jaw-dropping information that's released? Maybe. We're still in the midst of Mercury retrograde right now, and the squares to Neptune is any which way to Sunday. There's going to be disruption and false information and things that are being kind of pumped into the media to kind of keep us from looking. But I want you guys to know that on the 20th and the 21st, as the Sun and Pluto are both ingressing at the same time, there is going to be a spotlight on, some kind of darker situation involving, the Sun can be a king, it can be a leader, it can be a celebrity, it can represent the death of somebody very prominent as well. Saturn is the dispositor both when it's in Capricorn as well as when it's in Aquarius. And Saturn's in Pisces. So it can be about famous photographers, it can be about designers, it can be about cinematographers. I think we're going to hear more about things that are being exposed in regards to people who are seeking like political asylum. It can also be about corruption and things that are going on that's being exposed in regards to hospitals and hospital care, end-of-life care, prisons, things like that. And then when we look at it from the perspective of Uranus ruling the Sun and Pluto, and Uranus is at the end of the month getting ready to go direct, I think it's going to be exposing where, politics are so heavily intertwined with all of this destabilization that's going on with money and resources. Also, Aquarius is about the collective coming together. We're hearing a lot about the BRICS nations and how even more countries are getting involved in the BRICS nations. Russia and other countries coming out, basically. I think Iran is the most recent one that's coming out for the dollar, that they're looking to just totally, get rid of the United States dollar. which is kind of like the backbone in the economy globally. But if that's disrupted, Pluto says we have to end something so something else can be reborn. We could see supergroups and people coming together that are basically trying to disrupt Taurus-related things, food, money, resources, land, things like that. So you're going to hear a lot about groups, collectives, organizations, technology, big businesses, because this can be about, large businesses and their influence on technology, money, resources, all of that stuff. But what's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, we'll see a moon ingress. The moon in Gemini is going to trine the sun in Pluto. We do see that Mercury is now coming out of shadow. So by the time Mercury hits 8 degrees, perhaps finally Mercury is coming forward with some of this news and some of this information. And we're starting to hear about what the future is kind of looking like in regards to, future, people who are in control. I think of Mercury and Mars as kind of being a bit of a tyrant in terms of this talk about war and the responsibility and the need to stand up and to do something. But in the midst of all of this, these squares to Chiron and Aries is, well, who is that going to affect? That's going to affect individuals. That's going to affect our bottom line, our resources. This is going to affect our mental health, our military. So much of Chiron and North Node coming into conjunction, from what I understand, from what I'm learning, is more about the issues with our military, how we've treated veterans, the fact that we have military that's been kicked out of or released or discharged for not following mandates, the fact that we have wholeheartedly a whole, a group of, younger generations that not only do not want to go to war, I don't think anybody does, but they're not physically capable of going. They're not mentally capable of going. And I think that North Node Chiron is going to be talking inherently about where the wound is going to be, where we are defenseless or we're feeling defenseless because we're not taking care of our own, right? Anyway. We're going to then see on the 23rd, Venus enters Capricorn. So Venus changing signs. She's going to move into Capricorn as well, Saturn-based sign. It'll be an interesting change. I mean, we're going to see Venus that's going to start harmonizing with Saturn. She's going to start trining Jupiter and Uranus. So we're going to see some nice aspects there. This is where, relationships have much more of a sense of refinement. It's a little bit more conservative. It's a little bit more traditional. And I think that having Venus that's going to be making so many aspects to both Pisces and Taurus is going to be just a continuation where we're seeing the beauty, the harmony that's coming post working hard on something all month long in January. Obviously, Venus being connected to the South Node might indicate where this is where, people are being more responsible when it comes to their part in relationships. There's much more of a taking relationships seriously or finances seriously with these transits. And at least Venus is going to be harmonizing with Jupiter and Uranus because she's the dispositor of these signs. So some kind of support comes in. For those of you guys who are a Taurus or Libra rising, you guys are going to feel this ingress pretty strongly. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising as well. You guys are kind of in the spotlight all month with all these planets in your sign. Look for some of the positive sextiles and the trines to really be kind of building in the Pisces and the Taurus areas of your chart. On the 26th of the month, we're going to see Sun in Aquarius square Jupiter. This is like a over-the-top, overdoing it, too much, excess type of day. This might mean that there is some sense of the masses waking up. I mean, I've connected to Pluto and Aquarius, I think, instead of the Great Reset to the Great Awakening. There's this huge shift that's happening where collectively everybody's waking up and realizing what's going on. It's a frequency thing as well. So I think that I keep thinking about how this is the breakdown of the matrix where something is starting to kind of shift and people are starting to kind of realize wait a second, is this the Truman Show? Are we watching a show? Is this not real? And so when Sun and Pluto are still in conjunction and we see the square happen to Jupiter, it's at a 6. So it might be about health. It might be about resources. It might be about care. It can be about future health care, things revolving around influence that groups have on banks. But this is the day where we're likely to overindulge, overeat, overspend. That kind of stuff can happen with this transit. And we're also going to see Mercury and Mars come into conjunction, but it looks like maybe that's going to happen on the 27th. So we'll look at that in a second. Also, Uranus turns direct on the 26th. So it's interesting that we see the Sun in Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, squaring Jupiter, which is in the same sign as Uranus, and then there's going to be Uranus going direct. So usually when Uranus goes direct, we see some kind of like electrifying situation, some shocks, some surprises. This is at a 19. I feel like this is where we may see some people breaking ranks. Like, I love the rebelliousness of Aquarius. You know, as a North Node in Aquarius myself, I really like that energy of just being like, yeah, like stir the pot. You know, like let's cause a ruckus and let's see what kind of happens. And so there may be a sense of some pot stirring that's going on in Aquarius that's kind of arousing or kind of like waking up you know, people with that North Node in Aries, and making people kind of realize and recognize, like, you know, hey, if we are in a situation where, you know, we're all kind of you know, being cast out or being removed or you know, kind of, yeah, cast out of society, basically. I think you're going to see like this hodgepodge of a bunch of like characters that are going to start kind of coming together and being like, yeah, like let's work together. So I'm curious to see what's happening with all of like these Aries individuals who have maybe been feeling like they've been going their own way. Like they may start making friends and working with groups of people who are going to help make them feel united again. I think about you know, individuals who might be you know, independent, that have been working independently in media, that start kind of building a group or a team. And I've already kind of started seeing it. I've already started seeing some people who have already been kind of these people who have been wiped off the internet that are now starting to do, you know, videos and be discussing about, you know, current events and stuff, working together. That's the kind of energy when you see sextiles between Pluto and Aquarius and stuff in Aries, where, you know, if you can't beat them, then you're going to be starting your own group, and that's going to be your way of being able to heal that wound. Anyway, watch for the over the top, overdoing it. Watch for Uranus going direct. Then we're going to see on the 27th, Mercury and Mars are going to continue to move together. It looks like they will meet officially. What degree is that going to be at? 18 degrees? Yes, it will. Will it? 17 degrees? It's going to be 17 degrees. I take that back. But they're going to move side by side. So the 27th into the 28th, and then you'll see them at 18 degrees. And when Mercury and Mars are in conjunction, this is words and action, right? Ruled by Saturn, okay? And Saturn is at a 6. I think we're going to be hearing, unfortunately, I don't like saying this, but all these 6s and 18s more about, oh, health issues and fearful of health stuff. And this is what we're doing to promote, you know, taking care of health things. Like, I don't really feel like anybody should be taking any health advice from anybody except from their doctor. And even that, there's a line, you know, and I'm not a physician. I can't make medical recommendations or give advice, but I think about Mercury's connection to systems and health. And I think about the connection to Mars, and how, you know, a lot of us are going to be realizing with this Mercury-Mars conjunction that if we're being told by, you know, authority figures or political figures what we should or should not be doing with our bodies, when they don't have a background, or they're not following that advice, or, you know, they don't really know the information or the data, is it smart for us to be doing the same? I mean, just before this conjunction, which will square the nodes, we're actually going to see this square Chiron. So hold up, let's go back here for a second. Right here, Mercury and Mars square Chiron. So this is where we're being told, you know, things that are going to happen, or stuff that's coming, or what will or won't be working, or what's going to be authorized, and how that could quite literally impact us individually in a negative way. It's a square. Then we're going to see those two come together and square the nodes. So I want you guys to know that around the 28th, when we have the North Node ruler in its exaltation, so this is good, conjunct Mercury, this is where we're like, you know what, this is a problem. I'm going to fix it. Or, you know, I'm not going to be told what to do or what has to happen. I'm going to be focusing on what I can do to kind of take charge of things without feeling like I have to be told what has to happen. Finding solutions to problems without feeling like you're being forced into it, right? Fateful conversations when Mercury squares the nodes. fateful actions when Mars squares the nodes. And 18 degrees deals with health, it deals with companies, it deals with employees. I mean, I think of like what's happening in Argentina, where they're talking about this massive like layoff of government employees, where their new president is basically trying to shrink the control of government, which I think is a good thing. And I wonder if this is going to be kind of a reflection of that, where it's like we're starting to realize and recognize where certain branches of government or certain superpowers or businesses or whatever, they have too much say, they have too much control. There's too much of like a monopoly in certain things. And I'm all about people being able to have, the free market and stuff, but I don't know about this. I feel like there's going to be some people who are feeling like they're being pushed into something that they don't want to do, and it can have a really negative impact on individuals. Okay, so then we're going to go to, also on the 27th, I did mention Venus will sextile Saturn. So that's great for stabilizing relationships and control. Saturn in Pisces, by the way, it's about like lower immune systems. Ironically, we're hearing all this stuff about stuff that's in water right now, which I've been telling you guys since last year. Test your water. Know what's in your water. Know where your water is coming from. Recently, I got a reverse osmosis system. Love it. I cannot recommend it enough. It's not a super, super expensive system. It's a countertop system because I don't own my home where I'm living right now. But I would recommend that because, pharmaceutical stuff is being found in the water. We're hearing about how now in certain cities and states, they're taking like water that's like being treated from like sewer lines. Now they're giving it to people. How is your water in California? Yuck. And I think with these sextiles to Saturn and Neptune, it's like what certain people in charge are doing to get involved with water rights, what's in water, who can have access to water, what's going on with water. Do yourself a favor, test your water. Okay, if you don't like what you're seeing, then start thinking about other ways where you can have access to water, whether it's, getting one of those, the Berkey systems, I think that's what they're called. Those are supposed to be really great. They're not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it's supposed to be one of the better ones you can have. If you're doing reverse osmosis, if you have a well, if you're having water delivered from a source that is reliable, water is going to be so important over the next couple of years. And so I'm waiting to see what we're going to be hearing in regards to some of this stuff. I don't like to stroke the fear flames, but some of the stuff that we're hearing about, why there would be cyber attacks on water stations or electric stations and other things, makes me wonder if this is some of the trines to Uranus and the sextiles to planets in Pisces, where it's almost like organized things that are being set up to make people fearful of not having resources, and then feeling like they have to give their power away, right? Or they have to give their freedoms away. Self-sufficiency is key in any which way you can right now. That's really what I would be learning about. All right, so then we have on the 28th, Mercury will trine Uranus, and Mars is there too. So where there is some kind of news and action coming up in the Capricorn area of our life that's dramatically changing or transforming something about our resources. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about how government figures are stepping in saying, well, we have to have these charging stations, or we have to have more windmills, or we have to be saving this land for power resources, or, things like that. That's very much the Capricorn and the Taurus kind of aligning. But I do think that it's going to be more about the future of cryptocurrency, just because it is in a sign that deals with money. Venus will also be in a trine to Jupiter the same day. Pretty damn good day, the 28th. I like this Venus trine Jupiter. I like the Mercury-Mars trine Uranus. I'm not a fan of the Mercury-Mars at 18 square the nodes personally, because I feel like there's going to be some things that are going to be like, well, we have to do this. This is what has to happen. And yeah, certain people are going to kind of benefit and kind of get rich from that for sure with Venus trine Jupiter. But that's a good day for relationships. That's a great day for money. I'm liking Venus's sextile to Saturn, but look at this, 6, 6, 6. It's all about what the government is doing to kind of help, companies, make up for having lost employees. And we're going to hear about what the government is doing to give health or resources to those in need, or, what they're doing to be able to offer new treatments or systems. It's going to be something revolving around this stuff. Not a fan, personally. But still, the sextiles in general do seem to kind of indicate that the action being taken in Capricorn is kind of helping solidify stuff in Pisces. And it is bringing us much needed resources or support in some area. And Earth trines do promote, physical goods, physical change. So we can't get mad about that. And then on the 29th, we're going to see Mars in Capricorn trine Uranus. This is kind of like a thinking on your feet, electrifying, moving swiftly and quickly type of day. 29th? Yeah, 29th. But you'll feel that for a day or two. And Mars is at a 19, so the action that we take in relationships with other people. Uranus in Taurus, which is going to be about 19, our relationships to food, money, resources. I think a lot of people are in for, I don't like saying a rude awakening. I don't like saying that, but kind of like a rude awakening at the end of January. That's just like about how much action there is going to be in the Capricorn area out in the skies. Now, if you're somebody who is a Capricorn, or if you're really focused on that area of your life and you really want to get some work done there, in that sense, it can be wonderful. But I think about how we had that new moon. I'll show you guys the moons in a second, but there's going to be a new moon in Capricorn at 20, which squares the nodes, and then Mars will activate that. So we have the new moon, and then Mars comes in and it's going to activate that. So you're going to have to kind of put some of those new moon intentions, those goals, what have you, into action around the 30th and the 31st. Now, after Uranus goes direct on the 26th, all planets are direct until April 1st, okay? Every single planet will be direct until we have a Mercury retrograde, which will be at the beginning of April. We're also going to be in the midst of like a eclipse, season. We're going to have eclipses going on that are going to be in Aries and Libra. We're going to have a bunch of stuff happening. So that's going to be a very, very, very busy time. My advice is if you have to launch things, you have to start stuff, you have to plan things. If you want to start new jobs, you want to start new habits, you want to launch businesses, you want to move forward with planning weddings and relationship stuff, like full steam ahead until we get to the beginning of April. So there's really no excuse to not get busy in January, to not get into a routine in January, to really provide us some sense of stability and really plan out our year. And to not get things going February and March as well. So I'm not going to say rare, but it is unusual. We'll usually have a short period of time in the year where all planets are direct. It just so happens to be this time. So make sure you make the most of it. No excuse not to have forward motion. Like, you won't be able to blame the planets, y'all, because everything's going to be moving forward. We're also going to see that there will be a new moon that's going to be in Capricorn. So let me show you guys that really quick. And that'll be on the 11th. I'm working on that video right now. It'll come out soon. And this new moon is going to be at 20 degrees of Capricorn. Look at your chart. You have anything around 19, 20, 21 degrees of Capricorn. This will be a new moon there. And what can I say about this new moon? I have so much stuff to say. I don't want to spoil my video, but I will say that new moons are new opportunities. We plant seeds. Okay, so we start something new. Capricorn is about our goals, our long-term planning, our reputation, our responsibility. And this is going to trine Uranus. So we have the ability to say, hey, I want to start this new thing. I'm going to make the time for it. This is what I really want to be doing. This is where I want to have more stability. And the trines to Uranus means that it may promote changes in our resources. It might give us a new perspective. It might change something physically or financially for us. It's a really great moon. And also the ruler, Saturn, is in a sextile to Mars in Capricorn. So I like this, but I know that down the road at the end of the month, like closer to the 29th, when Mars comes to 20 degrees, it'll reactivate this. Now, on the other hand, this moon exactly squares the north and the south node. So it's a new moon that's going to feel like there's some action behind it. This also exactly squares that solar eclipse that we had in Libra, if you guys think back to the fall, at 21 degrees. So this is going to be like a turning point. Now we're several months past that solar eclipse in Libra. Now it's like, okay, there's going to be more unfolding from that particular eclipse right now. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So, the sextiles to Saturn, that's nice. It's a really great new moon. I'm really excited for this because I feel like this is going to be the starting point to kind of really get the show on the road by the end of the month. Then we're going to have on the 25th, we're going to have a full moon that is going to be in Leo. Okay. So creativity, drama, romance, taking chances, having fun, self-expression. So the moon will make an opposition to the sun, which by the way will be in conjunction to Pluto. All right. So this is like drama. And obviously Leo is ruled by the sun. So we've got the sun conjunct Pluto, the death and rebirth of something, which is bringing some kind of something to a big conclusion, a big completion. And oh, by the way, it's going to square Jupiter. Holy shift. This is a really big energy. I haven't even really started doing the video for this yet, but I will just tell you that even though there is a full moon in the Leo area, you damn well better be watching what's going on with the Jupiter square because this is making something bigger. Leo rules the stock market, so stuff involving the stock market, speculative stuff, does make me feel like there is going to be quite a significant pop maybe that's going to happen financially in the world. I do think it's going to be as a result of tech or some new innovation in tech. I think we're going to see that anyway because Pluto's in Aquarius, Jupiter's going to conjunct Uranus, so we're going to hear a lot about some of this stuff in this next year. But yeah, that's a very big full moon, and you have to look at Aquarius as well as Taurus to really get the bigger picture of what's going on. These are all financial signs, by the way. And then, like I said, when Mars hits 20 degrees, that's when you're putting your new moon stuff into action. So by the 31st. So we're going to have a stellium of planets in Capricorn. And then as we're getting into January, that stellium then shifts into Aquarius. And Mercury is going to meet Pluto, and Mars is going to meet Pluto, and Venus is going to meet Pluto. So that train just keeps going. And we're going to see a stellium in Capricorn, stellium in Aquarius, and then a stellium into Pisces. And these are the last 3 signs of the zodiac, which is like reaching the top, completing the process, you know, having the party, realizing our goals, connecting with others. And then there is this kind of grand, kind of collective releasing and undoing. And then we'll get into the spring where we're going to have eclipses in a retrograde. If you don't get the show on the road right now, that's okay. That's fine. You'll have the opportunity to do it during the new year, the real new year, when we have the ingress of the sun into Aries. But that time, guys, between a conjunction to Chiron with that eclipse, a Mercury retrograde, I'm telling you, you don't want to wait till April to get your shit together. You want to start doing it now. So look at where Capricorn is in your chart. That's where you're going to do the most work this month. Let me know how do you guys resonate with this? What do you think? I keep thinking about the last couple times where we had that stellium in Capricorn and then it all moved into Aquarius. It was actually in 2021. And I think about, for me, being a Libra rising, it was like all those planets in my 4th house. I was like, okay, I got to move. I got to get everything ready. I got to get everything set up and creating my office. And I started, doing this channel. And then I started creating as all the planets went into my 5th house, right? So, a lot for me came from that. So I'm kind of doing some similar stuff right now where I'm like, okay, what am I creating in this next year? What am I putting together? And how is it stemming from all of the work that I'm doing in the Capricorn area of my chart? Let me know. Where is it happening for you guys? How are you feeling about these energies? What do you think? And if you guys dare to look into the future, I will say with this new moon in Capricorn, has anybody looked at the full moons next year? Okay, so new moon in Capricorn, right? 20 degrees. So 6 months later, a new moon becomes a full moon. Watch this. So we're going to have full moon in Capricorn, 1 degree. Okay, conjunct the cardinal points. And then guess what happens a month later? Oh, full moon in Capricorn, 29 degrees. Right? Pluto's retrograding back to 29 degrees of Capricorn. Like, what the heck? Like, obviously the cosmos really want us to kind of get the show on the road with making some big dramatic changes in Capricorn. To some extent, it's still going to kind of extend into the fall next year. But 2 full moons in Capricorn, like, what? Are we ready for this? as a Libra rising, I want to say like, I do not claim this energy. I've seen some of you guys say that on your comments. I always chuckle when I see Libra risings get mad, and I'm like, man, we're in this together. I don't discriminate. But I think the cardinal signs are really kind of like fed up. But as I was writing I was writing all my stuff up for my 2024 presentation, I was like, this has got to be a joke. When I was looking at this full moon, I mean, look at this, 29, Neptune 29, we've got Mars that just left 29. 2024 and 2025 are like these winding down years before things like are really very different in the future. So we've got a lot of outer planets that are kind of wrapping up their cycle. But yeah, really realize that whatever you're working on, like whatever goals you're setting for Capricorn right now, you're going to have 2 opportunities to get that wrapped up in the summertime. Oh my gosh. But anyways, hopefully this is helpful for you guys in kind of getting my 2 cents about January of 2024. You guys know me. I'll be back here throughout the week. I'm working on that Mars in Capricorn video for you. We're going to also talk about the new moon and how to work with it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Leave me your comments below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And you guys can catch me here on Fridays. Generally, I'm here doing live readings and stuff. I will say that this Friday, I will not be here. So I needed to put that information out now. I know, but I have some stuff I have to tend to with my family. So I will be traveling. I'll miss you guys, but I'll be back here next Friday so you guys can catch me here. And until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.